Hello, good morning, Internet. I'm Ryan Ingram, and today is the Friday morning live stream, all about real estate. Any questions you might have, any answers you might be looking for as it pertains to real estate investing, I might be able to answer those. Let me go get all set up. Post your questions in the chat, any that you might have. Disclaimer, I'm not a professional of any kind, truly. So you should always seek professional counsel before you take any actions on anything that I may or may not say. So we could start there for sure. And I know since I have not done this in a little bit, I know we've got some questions that we can go over that have been asked in the comment section. So I'm able to answer those. But first, since it's been a while, I'm not quite sure where we left off, honestly, as far as me updating you on all the things that we have going on. So we finished the year strong. We purchased, I think, 213 or 214 properties. Let me check. And that's exactly what we were after. So our goal was to buy 200 homes last year. We were able to do that. Let's see here. Yep, 213 homes. So our average purchase price was $48,878, which I just think is a cool metric. Obviously, we purchased some properties for the $10,000, $15,000 range, and we purchased others for, a little over $100,000. So everywhere in between, but on average, our purchase price was $48,879, and the averaged financed amount was right at $60,000. So, as I've explained a couple of times, our overall business model is to use private lenders for 100% of the purchase price and also 100% of the rehab costs. And the only way that we're able to do that is by making sure that the purchase price plus the rehab cost is equal to or lesser than 75% of the after repair value. And that allows us to, on the back end, as we refinance, we're able to just do like an even trade. Hopefully, we get a little bit of money back if we were able to rehab the property for less than 75% of the after repair value. We'd get a little bit of money back at the refinance. Otherwise, it's just a one-for-one exchange of institutional or the traditional bank money with the private lender money. So we pay off that first position mortgage there and get a new first position mortgage, which is more of what you'd expect to see a traditional mortgage to look like, 20, 30 years of as far as an amortization period and a lower interest rate. So that's pretty cool. Very thankful for that. So far this year, we purchased 2 properties in January, and we're going to purchase a lot today. We've had a slow January for no real reason, other than we're still trying to feel out where we want to go this year. We've got a little bit of figuring left to do as far as whether or not we want to buy 200 again this year. We kicked around the idea of attempting to double our previous year and try and buy 400 homes. But for the most part, we have thrown that idea out. We are either going to buy 200 or lesser than 200 homes this year. Maybe 10 a month is what we might do, but more than 100, but probably not more than 200. We'll see. One of the things that we're working through right now that is interesting is even though the market is staying strong, and when I say that, I mean the properties that truly don't have anything wrong with them are still selling for exactly what you would expect them to previously. So yes, the interest rates increasing have definitely slowed down the buying, but the inventory is still extraordinarily low. So anything that is priced fairly is still selling, and anything that is in above average condition, I would say, still commands the same type of market value that you would expect in the height of the market. However, you are definitely seeing increased days on market. And also, since everybody is predicting some type of recession to occur, what we've noticed is the lenders are now being a little bit more hesitant on their refinances. We've had several banks let us know that they are not doing 75% loan to value anymore. They're either at 70, some are at 65, some are at 60. So that's like a new thing that we're feeling out and trying to figure out how to navigate around. So it's interesting. I think a lot of that has to do with Blackstone. They've had there are a decent number of news articles out there that say Blackstone had a decent number of institutional investors exercise redemptions. So from their like REIT or their real estate investment trust, which is causing, they're a significant buyer of mortgages and mortgage-backed securities, I suppose. So that's interesting. We'll see how that pans out. But as far as like our local economy and what that's doing, I think it still makes sense. If things are priced fairly, they go fast. There's still a decent amount of opportunity to buy discounted or distressed assets at reasonable rates. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but I'm having fun trying to feel it out. So today it'll be a short one. I have to be at the title company at 9 a.m. We're buying a 3-unit today, which is unusual for us. I know historically I've mentioned on multiple times that I prefer single family homes and not multifamily, and that is still true. I would say the only reason that I'm really interested in this one is we have accidentally bought other multifamilies, and some of them, like the brick ranches that are on slabs and they're all side by side units, we've had a decent experience with. Those are generally pretty low maintenance. They don't necessarily cause too many complaints from the other residents in different units. And that is exactly what we're after. So we had the opportunity to purchase a 3-unit for a reasonable rate, and we did it because we have favorable experience with brick ranch multifamily properties. So I think at this point, those are the only ones that we would purchase. While we didn't have the worst experience with duplexes that are like side-by-side units, they have some really large ones here in the area where the entire building is like 3,000 to 4,000 square foot. They're massive units. But at this point, compared to the cost it takes to rehab those versus what you're actually able to rent them out for, it's a little bit lower than single families is what you're able to rent them out for. And the rehab costs are higher. So while those don't have the same kind of noise complaints or kind of intra-resident drama issues, they just don't necessarily make the most amount of sense. So single family in my book is still the way to go. But again, there are as many different ways to make money in real estate investing as there are people investing in real estate. So that is fun. That's just our take, but that's a 3-unit that we're buying. And then on top of that, we are buying 3 other single family homes. Of those single family homes, none are occupied. I know I have said that we're pivoting. I think I mentioned that. We're trying to buy more occupied stuff than unoccupied stuff. But these 3 are really good deals where we were able to buy them for, I would say each of them, we're probably buying them for around 35 to 40% of the after repair value. So even with repairs included, we're going to end up pretty low on the after repair value side. So I have made several videos about what I think to be the appropriate formula for purchasing properties, which is purchase price plus rehab cost equals 75% or less of the after repair value. And I would say that if you are investing in 2023, then you should probably modify that formula a little bit. So the most conservative loan that I've heard of at the moment has been 60% loan to value. I think trying to buy a property to where the purchase price plus the renovation costs are 60% of the after repair value or less is a very tall order. Obviously, if you have the opportunity to do it, I would, but I don't necessarily think that is too likely. So if your plan is to build a portfolio in a similar manner where we have, where you are attempting to purchase, renovate, and refinance a property without having any of your own money tied up into it, then it's going to be pretty difficult. And I would do your very best to only purchase deals if you can get it around 65% of the after repair value. Again, tall order is probably going to mean fewer properties purchased, but I think lowering that percentage of the after repair value while everybody is still feeling this out, seeing what the Fed is going to continue to do, I would say that is ideal. However, I would caveat that and say, in the event you come across a property where you know it is a solid addition for your portfolio for the next 30 years, then you should go ahead and purchase it. I do not believe that any type of market conditions that we're currently in should deter you from acquiring assets that you have every intention of holding for a very long period of time. Real estate is still one of these asset classes that if you look at it from a long enough lens, then it is really difficult to go wrong without being grossly negligent. So if you are looking at a property, if you have financing means available to you where the property still cash flows, if you're able to buy a property that is discounted for whatever reason, even if you're at the 75% range, then I would still go ahead and do it if that fits in your long-term plan. If it is going to cash flow for you as soon as it's rented out, then I see no reason to be shy around that. I don't think that we're going to experience some type of volatility that is going to make real estate questionable as an asset class. If anything, I think you should still lean pretty heavily on the fact that there is a shortage of homes nationwide. All of the people that want to have single family homes, there aren't single family homes for each of those people to have them. So we're still in arrears as far as homes go. I think one of the last figures I saw was that there are about 3 million single family doors that still need to be built in order to catch up for demand. So it's still an asset class that there's just simply not enough of. So it's, in my opinion, it's still going to be safe. I think the demand for rentals is still very high. I think that in many markets, not the Midwest, because the Midwest has its own unique set of issues, but the markets like Florida, Texas, those are the only two I'm going to mention because those are the only two I know offhand at the moment. The build to rent communities are still doing very well for investors. And I know that there's a lot of institutional investors still looking to build new properties and hold them as rentals. So if you find an asset that makes sense as a rental and you have every aspiration of owning it for several decades, then I would go ahead and consider this to be an extraordinarily good time to purchase properties. I would say if you have your eye on any property that's currently on the market, then you should go ahead and make offers on them as low as you would like and start the conversation and figure out if there is any point between your offer and the listing price that the seller is willing to sell that property at. Yep. I would say that's it. I would say that is a fantastic summarization of my opinions on the market. Congrats. Hey, good work. I'm really looking forward to getting some more info about this. What is the best way to find properties via owner financing? I would say that the best way to find properties for owner financing are for the exact same way that you would find any other property to purchase. So straight off the MLS. So Trulia, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, all of the people that pull from the MLS, I would say if you have a property there that you're interested in buying, if it hasn't sold for whatever reason, if it's been listed for a while, then you should ask even the realtors if that person would be interested in seller financing and have some type of draft terms available. The best way to find owner financing is always to ask. Now, if you could layer on a relationship with the owner of that property, then your chances of successfully negotiating owner finance increase, right? If you could figure out the unique set of circumstances that that seller has that makes owner financing a better solution than just selling it. So if they are worried about like a tax bill, if they if they've owned the property for a while, if they are interested in recurring monthly income, but they are tired of like the management of that asset, then owner financing is a better option for them than just selling that property. So I would look for opportunities unique to that. I would say you can do that via PropStream. I'll put up a link to a free 7-day trial on that. And you could pull a list that shows ownership that is high equity. Maybe like you could filter it by people that have owned the property for 15, 20 years. And you could reach out to them. Non-owner occupied properties that have been owned for 15 years or more. And then other than that, anytime you have the option or opportunity of purchasing a property, see if they are interested in owner financing. The worst they could do is say no, and the best they could do is say yes. So you would have an owner finance deal on your hands. And I think a lot of investors, especially when you're starting, all banks want to see that you have been a real estate investor for 2 years before they want to count the rental income in favor of like your debt to income. So as they line item all your income, all your expenses. If you haven't been a real estate investor for 2 years, they're not going to want to count any of the rental income. So your personal income is going to have to support the expenses of your household and then also of your rental property. So in those instances, I think owner financing, when you're in that window, owner financing is one of the more valuable things that you could pursue because you're going to be able to negotiate the terms, you're going to be able to buy that property, and you're going to be able to start building your history as a real estate investor. And you're going to be able to circumvent those banks' criteria of that 2-year period. So I would say once you're able to start negotiating the owner finance terms, a balloon is fine. You're still going to want to amortize it 20, 30 years. It's not going to really matter if you have a shorter balloon period. But if you have owner financing in front of you, just make sure that it is longer than a period of 2 years. Because if it's shorter than a period of 2 years, you're going to have a really difficult time refinancing on the back end if you lack that 2 years of real estate investor history. So that would be my 2 cents on finding owner financing, negotiating owner financing, and then your exit strategy from the owner financing into long-term debt. I'm getting back into crypto. The Bato's in. Hey, I trust you, man. You did great the first time around. So, hey, I'm happy that you bought a rental prior to getting back into crypto. I think that is probably one of the better options available to you, all things considered, because real estate is tried and true. There's entire industries built out around it. Crypto is still kind of on the cutting edge. Who really knows what it is or isn't at the moment? My 2 cents. But I've been wrong about many things before. So one of the businesses that we own is an insurance agency, and that was the first business that I started once I left law enforcement and kind of ventured off on my own and paid a lot of our initial monthly expenses with. So the insurance industry has really helped from a real estate investing perspective. It sustained my family while we were building our rental portfolio, and it has also given me a wealth of information about real estate investing because I specifically designed the agency to provide insurance for real estate investors. So, pretty thankful for that. It's also allowed me to add some value and network with other real estate investors. So, I've had a lot of fantastic relationships built around insurance and real estate investing. And in that, I see a lot of newer real estate investors struggling with some of the same difficulties regarding the insurance policies that you're supposed to get. So here are just a few rental property insurance tips for newer investors. I think one of the most important things is to know that the insurance companies view vacancy as the last time it was occupied. Now, most insurance policies, you start losing coverage after the property has been vacant for 30 days. However, if you really read the fine print, a lot of these, it doesn't start from your day of purchase. So the last time the property was occupied is going to be the date that you want to know. And that's going to help you determine whether or not you need to buy a vacant policy, or you can go ahead and buy like a normal dwelling fire policy is what's called, or a landlord policy, one that is considering and assuming the occupancy status as being occupied. So if a property is vacant for longer than 30 days in like your normal turn period, then you're going to want to write a vacant policy and cancel your dwelling fire policy. So to do this very well is going to be time consuming. To make sure that you are always covered is tricky. There are insurance companies out there that will give you a longer grace period. However, these are not the large kind of box store companies that you're probably familiar with. These are going to be local companies specifically to your area. So one of the ways that my insurance agency has catered to real estate investors is by partnering with insurance companies that are a little bit more lenient on the occupancy status and the leeways, especially as it relates to a turn. Because in theory, what you're supposed to do is, let's say you buy a property that's occupied. Well, a normal dwelling fire policy is the best fit for that. You wouldn't need to buy a vacant policy. However, if that resident were to move out and your turn is a little bit more in depth than you expected, and if that turn is going to take longer than 30 days from the day they move out until you place the next occupant, in theory, what you're supposed to do is cancel that dwelling fire policy, write a vacant policy, and then once the property is occupied again, then you can go back to a dwelling fire policy. However, almost all of the real estate investors that I know kind of cross their fingers and hope for the best during that period, knowing that if it exceeds 30 days, then there's a chance that there isn't any underlying coverage. So definitely make sure that you have a firm understanding and talk to your preferably your local independent insurance agent, and make sure that the particular insurance company that you are writing your dwelling and fire with get crystal clear on what they want you to do from an occupancy standpoint. Because the last thing you want is to have a turn that lasts 45 days and something occur, and then that claim get denied because the property was in fact vacant. Now, also just a fair warning is vacant policies are significantly more expensive than your normal dwelling fire, which makes this entire thing that I've expressed just now even more frustrating. The second thing that I would say is you're also going to want to be very clear about the pets. There are each insurance company, and here in Ohio, they've gotten more strict on it, is what type of breeds are permissible and are not permissible for their insurance or underwriting guidelines. Now, while some people accept pets, and don't necessarily see the harm in any breed, insurance companies definitely rate and exclude particular breeds of pets. So you're going to want to be clear on that. And in the event that you have a particularly harmful or historically aggressive breed living at your property, you're going to want to make sure that the insurance company is aware of that, um, and make sure that you are very clear on the fine print of that policy. So, as if someone is bitten, then you'll know whether you do or do not have coverage. We have had insurance companies start canceling the coverages and the policies for people if they do an inspection of the property and see a dog of a particular breed on that property. And insurance companies are very forthright with this. They'll give you a list of all the breeds that they accept, and definitely the ones that they do not accept. So keep that in mind. Do you prefer to refi through smaller regional banks or the bigger banks? It depends. I would say if you're just starting out and you need some help, then the smaller regional banks are definitely where you should go. And from a relationship perspective, nobody can help you more than your small local credit union. I firmly believe that. They are generally more agile. They are generally set up in a manner where you can go in and talk to the vice president of commercial lending, come to an agreement about their appetite, what they're willing to lend on, and then you can go out and purchase properties that fit in that criteria. They are also likely to work with you significantly more. You're not going to be just like a number or, um, just another loan application on their desk. They're going to hear the individual parts of your story, of your dilemmas, of your investing goals, and probably if all things check out with you, they're going to help you achieve those. So definitely first stop, smaller regional banks. I definitely think they're the way to go. However, I think there's a certain threshold that you get to where those smaller regional banks are going to start pulling back on you. And we started experiencing that when we started doing, multiple deals per quarter, where they would do a couple with us and then they'd say, hold on, like, let's have these on our books for a couple years, see how they do, and then we could do some more. So once we started achieving like a certain level of scale, we grew out of most of the local credit unions' appetites. So we recently tried to submit a loan package to a smaller credit union, and it had about 42 properties, and that was like a total loan amount of I think like a little over 3 million. And that was higher than the appetite of these smaller banks. So for that reason, when we package up these larger ones, we do kind of prefer a more institutional lender. However, I got to say that if we were to restart our portfolio, the smaller regional banks would be significantly more helpful for us than the institutional ones. At this point, the institutional lenders that we work with, you have to package together a minimum amount of about $3 million for them to want to even look at it. So until you're to that point, I think you should really cling to your smaller regional credit unions and really build out those relationships, especially when you are looking at negotiating owner finance deals and refinancing those after about 2.5, 3 years. They're going to be your best bets. My rental is vacant and is going to need rehab. I hope insurance for vacant homes isn't too bad. I would say on average, it's about $100 per month. And when you are looking at insurance for a vacant property that needs rehab, you're really not going to be able to get replacement cost for that. So it's likely going to be an actual cash value. Just the chances of things going wrong on a vacant property are significantly higher than claims made on an occupied property. So while the risk is high, the insurance premium is as well, and also the amount of coverage they're willing to extend to you is going to be lower than when it is occupied. So when you are writing the insurance on a vacant property, you're going to go off the purchase price and the rehab cost. And it's going to be an actual cash value of some number between there. Now, because vacant insurance is so expensive, when you're writing the policy on it, I would not include all of the rehab costs unless you expect it to be a very short project. If you think you can get it done in a month or two, yes, do the full purchase price plus the rehab costs. The goal of a vacant insurance policy, in my opinion, is to break even in the event of a claim. So in the event that the house burns down while you're working on it, you're going to want to definitely get your purchase price back. You're definitely going to want to get back any of the money that you have currently spent on the property. And then you're going to want to get enough to clean up the lot, get rid of all the debris, and, make it a good looking lot to where you're not going to get bad letters from the city. You're not necessarily going to want to walk away with any capital in addition to that. And I say that because in the event you do want to walk away with additional capital, then you're going to be paying more than necessary. And the chances of even finding that arrangement with an insurance company is pretty small because they're going to want to be on the actual cash value side, not the replacement cost. So if it's a short project, the full purchase price plus the replacement cost. If you think it's going to take 3 to 6 months, then I would go with probably the purchase price plus about half of your estimated replacement cost. And then you can modify the policy once you reach that current insured value. And then you can raise it once you start getting more money into it. That way you are saving a little bit of money. The other thing that you should know about vacant policies is there is what's called a minimum earned premium amount. And minimum earned premium is how much that insurance company is going to charge you in the event that you cancel. So some vacant policies have a 100% minimum earned premium, which means if it's a 6-month policy and you rehab that property in 1 month, and you need to cancel it and get on a dwelling fire policy, an occupied policy, then you're not going to get any of that premium back. So you're going to lose the 5 months of premium that you already paid. Now, your local, more regional insurance companies, they're likely going to have a vacant product that doesn't have a minimum earned premium. That means if you use 35 days of that insurance and you have paid more than that, then they're going to prorate it based on the number of days, and they're going to give back any money in excess of the premiums that you paid. Now, there are some companies that specialize in this. They do like 3-month policies, and it is 100% minimum earned. And then the companies that don't necessarily specialize in it, they might not have a minimum earned premium. However, I would just be cognizant of the fact that insurance agents are paid based on commission, and that commission is directly correlated to the total premium dollars that policy costs. So in the event you write a policy for a vacant policy and you only have it in effect for 1 month, then that insurance agent might make about $10. So a lot of insurance agents, especially the independent, the smaller locations, they don't necessarily go around writing vacant policies for clients that don't also have a lot of other business with them. So you're just going to want to be mindful that if this is the only product that you have with that individual, then they're essentially working for lesser than minimum wage based on the time that you have into it. Because writing a vacant policy takes just as much time as writing an occupied policy. And if it's vacant for a short amount of time and then it's a rental, you're going to have twice the amount of time in it as if you just wrote that initial dwelling fire policy. So just be cognizant of everybody's time, like most people always are. It should take less than 3 weeks. That's great news. Yeah. So just be careful. And I would say that if the rehab is going to be that short, then you have the ability to. Some companies have a grace period where if the property is going to be occupied after you purchase it inside of 30 days, then you don't need to make this pit stop at the vacant policy status. However, other companies read very black and white that the property cannot be vacant for longer than 30 days before you start losing coverages. And that 30 days does not start at the moment that you purchase the property. It starts at the time the last property was occupied. So let's just say you buy a property, it hasn't been occupied in 50 days, and 3 days after you buy it, there's a large claim that occurs. The insurance company may go back, do a little investigation, talk to the utility companies, figure out when the property was last occupied. And if it is longer than that 30-day threshold, your claim might not be so pretty for you. So I would say if you're a real estate investor for any length of time, because insurance is so particular and so well thought out in their policy forms, there is a very high chance that you are doing a great deal of like self-insuring, whether you know it or not. So the more you understand insurance, the more you understand where your exposures are. And I think it would pay everyone dividends to read through their policy forms, to have an extended conversation with your local insurance agent, and make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into. That way, whenever you do have a claim, you don't have high hopes of being reimbursed for something that you will never be reimbursed for. All right, got a couple more minutes left. I'm trying to figure out some topics that we can discuss. Got 11 people on. Thank you to everybody on this Q&A. It's been a while. Feels good to be back. Oh, also, for all the people wanting an update on the mansion project, we have been shut down by the city of Dayton. So I have made a mistake in that I only pulled 5 of the 7 permits that I was supposed to. And unbeknownst to me, this property was on the demolition list. It was found to be structurally unsound, and it was listed as a structural nuisance with the city. Now, there's really no way to have known that. The only way that you could know it is by calling a phone number that barely anyone knows exists and ask specifically whether or not this property is on that list. So I have learned that, and it was in fact on that list. So because of that, I needed to apply for a building permit, and I needed to get an architect or a structural engineer, all of their opinions on how to make that property structurally sound once more. So going into it, before we even started the project, I got a report done by a structural engineer in which he found the property to, in fact, be very much so in good standing condition. Yes, there were some suggestions that he needed. However, that report alone wasn't enough to get that property off the list. So I had to work with a local architect. I had to get him to make some drawings outlining some of the work that we had already done to kind of shore up any of the weaknesses that that house had. And the architect had did that. He gave us some big rounds of applause on the fact that we went above and beyond what he would have expected us to do and what he would have recommended himself. So I felt good for that. However, the building permit process is a very, very lengthy one. And we don't need to be doing any work on that property until that building permit is obtained. So this has been a massive learning curve for me. I didn't expect it. I never intend to do anything improperly. So we're waiting. There's been a minor amount of progress on that property. I believe the gas line is now installed. That was retired, so the gas utility provider needed to come back out, install a new one. And because I want to make all of those fireplaces functional once more, there are 7 of them in there. The gas company was so kind to install one of the largest gas meters that I have ever seen. It rivals that you would expect to see at a McDonald's. So pretty pumped about that. I don't think we will ever have all 7 fireplaces on at once. I think that would be extraordinarily excessive, but knowing that we have that option is pretty cool. So I've been told that the building permit process from the city takes about 4 weeks. However, I know some people have told me that they have been in the building permit process for over 3 months with their permit being reviewed. So who knows when it will actually get released. So I hope that we can still make some progress on that property some point this year. But now that we've got that stop work order on the property and we are at the hands of the local government before we can start working on it again, I do not have high hopes. So I really need to make a video apologizing for not following through with what I said I would do, which is make a new video every Saturday. But at this point, all of my update videos, the only thing that I could say is, hey, send out an email and confirmed that we are still, in fact, waiting. So that's about it, as sad as it is. But that's okay. We're in no rush. We are having a great time at our current house and still looking forward to it. So no big deal. Lastly, I would say that I am really blessed in meeting a lot of people that are considering investing in real estate. And I get some emails asking me questions pretty regularly. And I would say that a lot of these emails revolve around improving your life with real estate investing. And yes, real estate investing definitely has the ability to dramatically improve your life. However, I will say that the majority of people that reach out to me have they start off with like false expectations, and that is they want to start real estate investing and quit their job. They're tired of their job. They want to be a real estate investor because there's freedom in real estate investing, and that is true. There is a lot of freedom in real estate investing over time. However, there are 4 main ways of making money in real estate: appreciation, principal paydown, the cash flow, and the tax benefits. So of those 4 ways of making money in real estate investing, the only one that has the ability to replace your active income and feed your family is the cash flow. However, if you watch almost any video about real estate investing, you will see that most real estate investors consider $200 to $300 per month per property of net cash flow as a big win. So if you are looking to replace your income, then you first have to understand that each time you purchase a property, it's only going to move the needle on your personal finances at $200 to $300 at a time. Now, when I was first starting out in real estate investing, I found it to be sometimes incredibly discouraging when I would take a lot of pride. I would think that I just hit like a home run each time I close on a single family home. And at the end of the day, when all the dust settled, it only moved the needle on our personal financial situation by about $200 per month. And that's on a good month. That's if everything goes right, right? So as you're building out this portfolio, especially of single family homes, you're going to want to be extraordinarily kind of long term minded on this. You're going to want to stretch out your expectations over like a 30 to 40-year period, right? Leaving your job in the next 3 to 6 months, probably not realistic. And I bring up how I felt when I first started because it is very easy, especially with as frequently as people share their wins online, to start comparing yourself to other people. And there are people that will, talk about how much money they're making in whatever avenue or whatever field they're in. And chances are they're going to make money at a higher rate than $200 to $300 per month. So even though we were doing all the right things, and even though we were building out our portfolio appropriately, it was one of those things where as soon as you start comparing yourself to somebody else, you get really discouraged. Now, real estate investing is also a volume-based business, or a quantity-based business, however you want to look at it. So I would encourage nobody to get started in real estate investing unless you have your sights on getting to 10 properties or more as quickly as possible. I think 10 is where you're really starting to take advantage of the quantity. And now you're talking about $2,000 to $3,000 of net cash flow per month. So when you're working with a sum of $200 or $300 per month, that's if everything goes right. So you're setting aside, 4% for vacancy, 10% for capital expenditures, 10% for repairs and maintenance. But if you have a property that's rented out for $800 and you're setting aside 10% for capital expenditures, that's $80 per month. A new roof costs $8,000. So that is a really tough pill to swallow. And where's that money going to come from? Unless you have an account that has, more money than that in it. Even if it does, you're still going to have to replenish that, because the roof is not the only thing that's going to go wrong on that property. So this $200 to $300 per month of net cash flow exists on paper, but it's likely never going to exist in real life, just because of the way that money works and the way that contractors expect to get paid. You can't just give that contractor your $80 per month after they replace your roof. They wouldn't go for that. That's not how it works. So once you get to that 10 quantity, then the $2,000 to $3,000 per month, that starts putting a really big dent in those capital expenditure items, those repairs, maintenance items, whenever those things arise. So leaving your job once you get to 10 rental properties, still probably not in the picture. So if you have aspirations of retiring really well, building generational wealth, if you want to build a business around real estate investing, then yes, real estate investing is definitely something that you should consider. However, real estate investing is not the solution. If you are looking to leave your job, if you are unhappy where you currently are, then you have a plethora of other issues that you need to solve first that might not include rental properties. If you buy a rental property or 2 rental properties, wanting with aspirations of leaving your job, those 2 properties are going to make it more difficult for you to leave your job, not easier. It's going to add to your carrying costs. It's going to add to your monthly expenses that you then have to, make up in some type of income producing activity. So I would definitely say, yes, real estate investing has the ability to improve your life drastically. However, it's going to happen over decades, not over months. And so long as you proceed with that in mind, then I think you're a really good candidate. Then I think you're really going to do a great job. But if you're looking to leave your job immediately, then finding some type of career, some type of job that may revolve around real estate investing, that may allow you to make like a very high commission, or walk into another place on like a W-2 basis. I think that is very reasonable. And I think that is a better solution, being around the industry that you want to make a long-term commitment to, and know that freedom will come as soon as you, uh, slowly build momentum and continually on a daily basis push the needle forward. But leaving your job in the next few months, probably not. And then also, I mean, real estate investing, people often want to say, well, the most real estate investing has made the most amount of millionaires of any industry. And yes, that's true. But big caveat, that's on paper. It's not in a bank account. So you've got plenty of other industries that will give you $1 million in your bank account way before real estate investing ever will. And if you talk to a lot of real estate investing millionaires, you will start hearing the term cash poor very frequently, because yes, your net worth might be in the millions, but as far as cash on hand, you probably don't have much at all. I mean, real estate investing is one of the most capital intensive businesses I think you could possibly be in. Every single problem that you ever have as a real estate investor has to be solved with money. Even if you're doing the work, you still have to buy the materials. So just go in it with a clear head and have reasonable expectations. And speaking of reasonable expectations, I think in usual Ryan Ingram fashion, I have far extended my time and I will now be late. But hey, I really appreciate you all. 12 people on Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be right here. And in the meantime, if you have any property in the state of Ohio, look up Ingram Insurance. Feel free to reach out to them for any of your Ohio insurance needs. Or if you have any type of cabinet or flooring needs, then reach out to Color and Style. They're on Linden Avenue here in Dayton. All right. I will talk to you all soon next week. Goodbye.